Yes, the footage that I'm going to show you is completely real. In 2013, Elisa Lam was vacationing in the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Every day of her trip, she would call her parents and check in with them, but on January 31st, those calls had stopped and she had vanished. For a while, nobody had any information on her or knew where she went, but then that February, the LAPD released this footage of her in the elevator. The footage shows her acting very strangely, peering outside the door, opening, closing the door, and appearing to talk to somebody who is not there or invisible people. Whatever was going on in this video raised a lot more questions than there were answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possessions to even unknown assailants just out of the camera's view. Right when this was happening, the hotel guests noticed something very strange with the water supply. When a guest tried to take a shower, the water would come out black first. Another hotel guest said the water tasted sweet and disgusting. Finally, an employee went to the roof and checked the hotel's water storage tanks. And in that water supply is where they found the naked, decomposing body of Elisa Lam.
Story time about how my boyfriend was cheating on me with my stepsister. So a little background information, my mom remarried whenever I was in 8th grade, and my stepdad had 2 daughters. One which was my age and we got along really well. Well, before my sisters and I went back to school, my mom wanted to go on a camping trip with everyone. And my boyfriend was coming because he was really close with my family. So while my stepsister and I are packing up, she starts acting really weird. And we're gonna call my boyfriend Kevin. She was like, "Oh, is Kevin still coming with us?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she goes, "Oh, are you and Kevin still together?" And I'm like, "We were never broken up. Like, the fuck?" Like I said, she was just being super fucking weird. But anyways, we all get in the car, we drive up there, and her and Kevin start being super weird around each other. Like, they were being too touchy. Anytime that I wanted to go do something with Kevin, she would say, "Oh, Kevin, you can come do this instead." Well, that night, Kevin and I are sleeping in our tent. At least I thought he was. And I wake up to some loud noises in the other tent, like for part 2. Part 2. So like I said, I heard a bunch of noises and talking in my stepsister's tent. And I wake up and my boyfriend isn't in the tent. So I be very quiet getting out of my tent and I go over to hers and I just listen. And oh bitch, I should have just confronted them because I got my motherfucking feelings hurt. He was telling her how he didn't love me at all and how he only wanted to be with her. And how every time that they kissed each other and screwed each other, he felt such a connection between them. So not only was he cheating physically, but they had a connection. Wonderful. So I open her tent and I confront them. This was the most degrading thing I've ever went through in my life. And I said, "I heard you guys outside. And I'm just not the type of girl who's going to come at another girl because my man wants her. Because at that point, he's not my man." She goes, "Sit down, sweetie. We need to talk." Apparently, they're in love. So they started dating. They're still dating. And my parents allowed it. So I distanced myself from all of them.
Really messy story time. When I was a freshman in high school, I had just transferred from private school to public school, so I had no friends, I knew nobody, and I didn't know anybody's reputation. Nobody decided to warn me about this girl anyways. So it was fall, it was football season, I was still new, and I had about like 3 friends, and we all hung out in this group. And I could actually walk to school. It was about like a 5-10 minute walk from my house. And the football game had pretty much ended, so we decided to leave to beat the crowd. And on my way home, some lady like hits me with her car. When I say hit me with her car, I don't mean she was going at like 50 miles an hour and my body rolled up on her windshield. It was a slight tap and I fell over. So she gets out of the car, first asks if I'm okay, and then proceeds to scream at me and threaten to call the cops because my body hit her car. And I'm standing there with my friends, and we just decide to start running away from her. And at this point, I'm like 2 minutes away from my house. I'm posting part 2 right now. Part 2 of my messy story time. So the lady hits me with her car, and then gets out and says, "Are you okay?" And then proceeds to scream at me and threaten to call the cops. This was before Karens were invented, but she was probably like the birth giver of Karens. So I didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do. She kind of got back in her car, and so I started running away because I thought she was going to call the cops for hitting me with her car. And then we get to my house, and for some odd reason, can't tell you to this day why, I gave the girl that was in the group the garage code to my house. It was 2 girls, 2 guys, me and the girl, and then 2 other guys. She was dating one of the guys. My dad was infuriated with me for giving out our passcode to some random stranger, and I get that now, but I was like 14, because I come to find out that she is a literal psychopath. My dad's a psychologist, and he can pretty much off the bat see if something's wrong with you. Like, you can spend 2 minutes with him and he'll tell you that you have ADHD. Part 3 is on its way. Part 3 of my really messy story from freshman year. So my dad's mad at me because I gave out our garage passcode, which I understand now, especially because, again, I come to find out that she's literally a psychopath. If you've been following me for a while, you might know I did kind of a partial story on her. She literally hit on my dad in front of me, and there's a 44-year age difference between them. Anyways, moving on. So yes, my dad's a psychologist. He can easily tell that somebody's crazy, but that is not how I knew. Like, she would run away from her house solely for the purpose of posting it on social media and getting attention from it. She would run to my house. We actually had to change our garage code just in case. I'm not done with the story, but I will also say that she dropped out of school for like a few months and told everybody it was to go away and have her boyfriend's baby, when that was proven not to be the case. Was never pregnant. Eventually, he broke up with her and she lied about being in the hospital from a car crash to get his attention. Part 4, the last part, is on its way. Part 4 of my really messy story from freshman year. So she was crazy. Normal people don't do the things that she did and still does. Like, he broke up with her and told everybody in the school that she was in the hospital and almost died in a car crash, then proceeded to tell him that and say, this is why you need to be with me, like, I'm crazy. Anyway, she's crazy. So back to the story. We arrive at my house and we come inside. And we all 4 come up to my room, which I am in right now. And they proceed to have sex in my bed while I'm in the room, while the other dude is literally sitting in the room with me too. Like, they were up in my bed and we were sitting on the floor while this was all happening, like in front of my eyes. And no one ever said anything. So I got hit by a car and then 2 basically strangers had sex in my bed while I was in the room. I got a new mattress. Don't go to public school.
Story time about how I woke up to my best friend having a seizure. A little background information. So my close friend invited me over to his house to spend the night, and we're gonna call him Jay. Well, Jay and I got to his house, and his parents are really strict, so he had to sneak me in. So he told me to wait by the garage, and as soon as he opens the front door to his house, I hear his parents screaming. So he's inside fighting with his parents, I'm outside freezing my ass off. So an hour later, he comes out to get me, walks me through the garage, and I have to hide in this crawl space. So while I'm hiding in this crawl space, him and his parents are still arguing. And his parents walk past where I was like 5 times. So his mom gets in the car and leaves. She said she was going to kill herself. His dad comes into the garage, starts crying. I literally witnessed him have a mental fucking breakdown. Then his mom came back, said that she hated everybody. So then Jay purposely bangs his head off of the kitchen table 2 times. So when he came into the garage to get me, he had an ice pack on his head. Then we snuck up to his room like for part 2. Part 2. So like I said, he rushes me up to his room because his dad was in the basement and his mom left again, threatening to kill herself again. And while we're upstairs, he starts taking dabs. And we're up for a little bit and then we go to sleep. So at like 8 in the morning, we both wake up. He's on his phone, I'm on my phone. We're not facing each other. And then all of a sudden, I feel the bed start to shake like a lot. So I turn over and this kid is having a full-blown fucking seizure. Like, he's foaming at the mouth. His eyes are literally rolling in the back of his fucking head. So I get up and roll him over onto his side because I didn't want him to start choking. And I'm fucking freaking out and don't know what to do because I wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place. And he's like making all these types of noises. So I go and I run down the hallway. I try to find his parents' room. And I open the door and have to wake them up dead out of their sleep. And I was like, your son's having a seizure. So his mom runs over to the room. And his dad's like, well, who the fuck are you? And why the fuck are you in my house? And I was like, your son told me that I could stay the night last night. Oh, like for part 3. Part 3. So like I said, his dad's like interrogating me right now. So they call an ambulance. His son leaves in the ambulance. They didn't go with him. And his dad's like, you're never allowed in this fucking house again. And then he asked me, did he take anything last night? And I'm like, he did dabs, but like, I didn't do anything because I don't do that stuff. So he goes over to where all of his dab stuff is and starts throwing the glass pieces in the garbage, making sure that he fucking breaks them all. And his mom comes over to me to comfort me because I'm literally like fucking crying because this kid almost died right next to me. And she's like, it's okay, sweetie, like this happens to him a lot. But I felt so uncomfortable because he was like making it seem like it was my fault. So I hurry up and call my mom, and my mom doesn't get there till like 30 minutes because their house is a little bit further away. And for all of you wondering what happened to him, I don't know because this happened this morning.
I was 11 years old when my mom kicked me out of the house for the first time. It was a school day! The sun wasn't even out! So you know what I did? I took a shit in the front yard. And I smeared it on her house with a leaf. Fuck. And then I took my happy ass on the school bus with a fucking trash bag of my belongings and went to school. And I told all of my friends, naturally. I thought this was the best revenge. I thought this was a normal thing that happened between daughters and mothers. I got sent to the guidance counselor. And then a few years later, I found out that my stepdad had to power wash my feces.